Welcome back. While we still don't know what brought down EgyptAir Flight 804, terrorism is one possibility being considered, and it's shining a light on airport security at France's largest international airport. The plane took off from Charles de Gaulle, and former CIA Director James Woolsey talked earlier with CNN's Victor Blackwell about that.
Do you have any concerns? Would you fly your family to and from Charles de Gaulle?
I think I'd think twice about it. And especially during the forthcoming soccer championships, I think I'd be worried about it. I might still decide to do it. I just got back from flying to Europe not long ago. But it's something that people should start thinking about.
Well, with more on security concerns at the airport, let's bring in CNN's Max Foster, who joins us live from Charles de Gaulle Airport. Max, firstly, what do you make of that comment, and what are family members telling you about their concerns?
Well, family members met with officials today, all sorts of officials involved in the investigation on the French side. And there was a huge amount of frustration amongst them, lots of questions, of course. This is their first chance to have meetings with government officials and aviation officials as well, and legal officials. And the issue here is that no French victims have been found, or identified at least. So there isn't an official investigation, so this is very much being led by the Egyptians. But certainly airport security, in particular Charles de Gaulle, you know, what happened with the plane when it was on the tarmac here, these questions did come up, and we spoke to a representative of the victims' families.
The question of security at the airport was raised persistently, 2 or 3 times, and provoked an answer from authorities. The airport authority said that all airport personnel are subject to strict controls, but the families have a lot of questions and had very few answers today. The real issue is if it's terrorism, it will definitely raise concerns about security at Paris airport.
Well, until the Egyptians call it terrorism, France won't be able to at this point, and they're very, very careful. They've had so much experience of terrorism in this country. They know how damaging and unsettling it is once you announce it. They've got the Euro football championships coming up, for example, so when the ex-CIA director does warn people that he'd think twice as an expert in security about coming through this airport, it's pretty frustrating, I imagine, to French officials who are trying to keep level-headed on this and very measured.
That's right. They are trying to keep level-headed, but they have stepped up security there. What's it looking like now?
Well, they're actually putting in intelligence officers now into the airport. They're ramping up security yet again, as they do every time there's been an incident here. The November attacks, for example, the January attacks, also off the Brussels attacks. And they're also bringing in some screening, which was discussed before this latest airplane disappearance. So extra screening as passengers go through. They're ramping it up as much as they possibly can, which is one of the sort of moments that baffle people here, really. One of the most secure airports in the world right now. How could an aircraft have been compromised in any way? People just don't know the answer to that. So everyone here desperate for more information from that Egyptian investigation.
Yeah, a lot of questions, not too many answers at this point in time. Max Foster for us live from Paris. Thank you. Well, investigators are looking at everyone who came into contact with the aircraft during the 24 hours before it crashed. Here's CNN's Tom Foreman.
At the time this plane went down, there should have been 2 people in the cockpit, 5 crew members in the cabin, 3 security people, we've marked in red here, and 56 passengers. They all have to be looked at by investigators. But let's sweep this plane back to the gate at Charles de Gaulle before it took off and look at this area right around it. Who had access to this plane? First of all, there were people on the ground who were doing basic maintenance and care of the ground maintenance crews. They have to chock the wheels, hook up fuel lines, things like that. There were luggage handlers who had to put bags on and off. There were cleaners who may have had to come on and tidy up a little bit. There were caterers who had to put food and beverage on board. And there were gate crews who had to check tickets and where people were seated. All in all, easily 35 people who had access to the plane, direct access on the ground. If you expand it just a little bit, let's say we include the plane next to it or the plane over here, those areas where you have people who could walk over in just 100 steps or maybe even less, this number jumps up. You can easily triple it to more than 100 people. And if you go to the whole airport and everybody who has some sort of security badge here that gets them into a secure place, then it goes wild. This number jumps to 86,000 people who have some sort of access at that airport. So we started wondering, what about here in the United States? How many people have a badge that lets them go into some sort of secure zone in one of our airports somewhere coast to coast? Turns out, last year Homeland Security gave us a number, 3.7 million people. That's a lot to keep track of.
Tom Foreman reporting there. Well, still to come on CNN Newsroom. A volcano is erupting near Costa Rica's capital, spreading smoke and ash right across a very wide area. A report from meteorologist Alison Chinchar is just ahead.